Hello, I'm Dr. Steve Hassan with another episode of my podcast, Cult Conversations, the Influence Continuum. And I am so excited to finally have on my show Lev Parnas, who is a superstar in my life, one of the original cult of Trump true believers who was used by Giuliani with his Ukrainian American business connections with Trump, became a whistleblower, and he was one of the first people to say, I was in the cult of Trump, and validating that intelligent, educated people can be taken in and used and then thrown aside. And Lev, you have a powerful memoir called Shadow Diplomacy, and you have an acclaimed documentary from Russia with Lev, which I loved, and I especially was so touched by you crying when you met with Hunter Biden at the end. It was just like, oh my goodness, what a good guy. I just think you have a big heart. You want to help others. You're a big whistleblower. Your information was critical to the first impeachment process of Trump, and you just have failed to succumb to the intimidation and the threats and all of that. And you're just being a righteous stand-up guy. And so welcome, and thank you for doing this with me.
Steve, thank you for having me. It's been a while. I know we've known each other for a little bit over spaces. We met over X or Twitter, whatever you call it. And we built a pretty good relationship. I consider you my friend. We've been fighting together, the good cause, trying to help people out. And, you know, your story itself is fascinating, incredible, and the book you wrote. And so, you know, it was a lot of inspiration to go out there. And because, you know, learning knowledge from experts like yourself, it gives people like myself that are actual survivors and they came out of it to incorporate it together to be able to help others and to be able to get, because the true goal in life is to be able to help others and maybe make sure that we could get them out of the cult. So Thank you for having me, Steve. And, you know, let's have a good show.
It's a fan club because, you know, we're both whistleblowers and we both have, you know, stood up against powerful, wealthy forces to say and do the right thing. And I think we have a clear conscience because we are doing the right thing. We're thinking of our children, our grandchildren. We're thinking about all the other minorities and other people, the folks in Ukraine who are suffering so horribly. And I wrote about Putin being the main puppet master in 2019 book, and we re-released it with George Conway's forward just before the last election. But people are still like, how do you know that he was recruited by Russia? I said, well, connect all the dots, but I actually interviewed Craig Unger and Yuri Shvets, and Yuri said, I was in the KGB when we recruited Donald Trump in the 80s. And then two other former KGB officials have since come forward validating that. But just look at his propaganda, Trump's propaganda talking points. He's trying to show that he's not totally Putin, but that's just part of the playbook to cause confusion, right?
Oh, there's lots going on. I mean, actually, today I broke some news on one of the shows I have on my Substack that we do is A Voice from Ukraine. And we do show the inside story. It's a daily show. It's live, and on that show, we broke that actually Steve Witkoff, who's the special envoy of Donald Trump to the Middle East, has been doing a lot of talking with Vladimir Putin recently. And people have been wondering, why is the Middle East envoy dealing with Vladimir Putin? Right. Well, today we broke it that back in 2010, Stephen Witkoff wrote a letter on behalf of an individual by the name of Anatoly Golubchik, who is connected to Russian organized crime and the Taiwan organization, and was indicted, I think, over $100 million gambling operation in Trump Tower. Witkoff was the one that wrote the letter. So his relationship with Russia goes back all the way to 2010. Because remember, Witkoff is a real estate guy, just like Donald Trump is a real estate guy, and most of the money they made was in an era where when Russia was freed, and all the oligarchs, when Putin let them come out here, start spending the money, most of that money was put into real estate, Trump real estate, Witkoff real estate. So this is
money laundering.
Well, this is what this guy, I think, got indicted for. Yeah, money laundering. So there's a lot of connections, and we're connecting the dots. Also, there's a gentleman by the name of Dmitriev, who is the special envoy from Russia to here. People might not know who he is. Mm-hmm. He's also an interesting character because he was born in Ukraine, actually Kiev, studied here in Stanford, and I think a little bit of Harvard. Then went back instead of to Ukraine, went to Russia, ended up marrying Putin's daughter's, one of her best friends. Got into Putin's inner circle. That's how he's become the negotiator. But then he met up with Kushner back in 2017 in the Saudi Arabia, because that's where they became close, because they have similar relationship, Putin with Dmitriev and Kushner with Trump. And they've been behind the scenes, a lot of the stuff you've been seeing going on as far as, dividing Ukraine up into little pieces, has been done by those three individuals. And I'm going to be actually reporting a lot of it more very soon. I'm just waiting for some of my sources to confirm some of the stuff, but it's going to be mind-blowing. So you definitely want to follow me on Substack, because that's where I release all of the stuff.
Yeah, so I want to remind people your book, the documentary, your Substack, and I'm seeing your son Aaron all over Substack doing, news hacking and jacking and just totally Midas touch. Go boys.
He's all over. He's not just Substack, TikTok, Twitter, all over. He's one of the top social media in the country. I'm very proud of him. He's delivering the news, just like, the Midas guys, Aaron Parnas, they're all doing it. But I'm a little bit different, Steve. These guys are journalists. I was the inside. I break the news. They deliver it.
Right.
So our community that we're building on Substack's a little special. It's for people. It's more of a movement, because to be able to fight Donald Trump, and that's what people don't understand. That's why the Democrats lost, not the people, because the people came out, did their job, they voted. But the Democratic Party, the leadership failed the people, because they do not know Donald Trump. Most of them never sat in a room with Donald Trump. They don't know how he thinks, how he breathes, how he eats. I do. People like me, very few of us do know, and that's why we're putting together this movement to be able to stop Donald Trump. That's the only way you're going to stop him. And the first step is going to be coming up with the midterms. So we're gearing up in a lot of different things, and that's why, Steve, I think it's important to get the message out as much as possible. And unification is incredible.
Yeah, and I need to tell you, one of my friends in Queens sent me some photos just before we got on to record this of the LaRouche cult, where Lyndon LaRouche ran for president 8 times, friends of Roger Stone and Soviet Union, and they're talking about what's wrong with China and Russia. It's the UK that's the monster that we have to fight, and it's like,
mind-boggling,
right? But I want to just ask you: is it true your son is a lawyer?
Yeah, my son actually graduated.
Rock and roll.
He graduated law. He got his law degree at 21.
So he's really not very intelligent and not educated.
It was during that time when, and not only was he 21, but he was going through a time when I got arrested for the whole Trump stuff, and he was with me. He was going to George Washington Law School at the time.
Oh, nice law school.
And I was dragging him into, the Trump Tower to meet up with Rudy. And I mean, it was just so he went through a lot, and I'm proud of him to see the way he came on the other side, and to make sure that he was able to, now he's actually making a difference. And, he's
great. He's really great. And tell him that I did my doctoral dissertation on the law and how to update the law using trafficking law to define brainwashing and mind control for judges and juries. Because I think that's the missing understanding, that people still think you have to be stupid to fall for a mind control cult, and it's not true, especially in this social media age where they're hacking using our personal data to get inside of our heads.
Oh yeah, that's a great point you say, because that's a lot of stuff where Trump is using behind the scenes with all of the techies that he has there. That with the AI and with all the technology, it's a lot different than when back in the day when you were in a cult, and I can't compare it to, but it's a different cult nowadays. It's a different, now they know what you're thinking. If back then they were working off the numbers and prying on now you got exactly the phone sitting in front of you. Look,
I'm telling you,
this in front of us. And
they're doing neuroscience tests, A/B testing on us to see how long we're staying on a certain video. The deep fakes are using parts of trusted loved ones.
Trump's administration is even, there's people saying they're talking about, I think it was even reported by some of the news that they're talking about using AI to think of how you would think, and if you could be charged with treason on the way you could possibly think. Going forward, like it's crazy. It's crazy to think of.
Well, I read a report because I hang out with people who are researching, and we are on a Signal thread together. I read a report that Russia was hacking all the major AI systems, ChatGPT and Claude and Copilot, etc., putting Russian propaganda, like flooding AIs, so that it would be spouting Russian propaganda.
Well, that's the dangerous part, because right now, with the way technology works, we're being brainwashed to now use AI and listen to AI, and AI is better than anything. And if you now all of a sudden are able to now pierce AI, like you're talking about, and put in some kind of propaganda, now brainwashing becomes very easily, because where's the truth? Because that's what it is. Because the difference between being brainwashed and being able to do facts is knowing where the truth is and being able to masquerade that truth and using that. So, I mean, it's extremely scary times.
Right. So my thing, as you know, Lev, you've been, my supporter for a long time. People need to know the influence continuum, respect for your conscience, your authentic self, love, free will, and critical thinking versus following blindly the leader with hate and doctrine and obedience and dependency and a pseudo self. But the good news in my experience is, yes, the mind can get hacked, but realizing the mind can get hacked, then you can go back in time before you became a believer in the cult and go, what did I think I was getting into? And you can kind of retrace what were the key propaganda videos or podcasters that you started taking seriously.
Yep.
And people need to come back to, we need trustworthy sources, people who care what's the truth, what are the facts, and are prepared to demonstrate their knowledge because of their expertise, because they've done their due diligence as journalists or as researchers. So this is going to be critical going forward, and I'm really encouraging people to spend more time in real life with family, friends, and protect each other from the onslaught of information manipulation and control.
I agree with you, but it's just so difficult with the age of technology. Everybody has a cell phone, everybody, your kids, everybody, and to be able to limit, and they're figuring out different ways to be able to even attack the younger generation, and they're getting even more. And I have, 7 kids, 3 of them they're minor right now still. And I could tell you, it's just incredible. I mean, the things that we take for granted, and we're not realizing that the way the shift and with the technology, the way the shift in all our daily life and changes, and how we're growing up, how our kids watching that transformation is really, I if you told me that 20, 30 years ago, this is where we'd be, I'd never believe you. We're almost at the Jetsons. I mean, if you recall back in that day, you'd laugh at that. You'd say that never happened, but we actually have in China. We have cars that are taxis that are now flying around all over China. I mean, what's to stop another 20 years? We'll have them here. I mean, we have cars that drive by themselves. We have robots now that take orders. People are less and less, and this is just the society. So I agree with you. Very scary.
Right, but the let's come back to those of us who realize it's dangerous, who have real-time practical solutions. I want to call out the Center for Humane Technology, Tristan Harris and Asa Raskin, and their podcast, Your Undivided Attention. They've been talking about how tech should serve humans, not us serve the tech. And really important stuff.
And I agree with you, but the problem is who owns the technology, and that's where it comes out. And it's like, in every movie, there's that mad scientist that you could use technology for good, or you could use it for evil. And this is the battle we're dealing. Yes, if technology is served for human, I mean, just think about AI could be incredible for medicine, medical technology. I mean, we could live probably another 100 years. People would be able to survive. I'm just saying.
At least till 120.
Exactly, at least 12. I mean, we'd be able to figure out how to get global warming under control. We'd be able to figure out, I mean, there's just so many different useful things. Instead, you're watching how technology is being used for power, money, greed, things that are the total opposite. Yes, you're still seeing a lot of good happening with it, but not as much good as you should be seeing. And that's why, again, who's in control of that technology and whose hands are they at?
Yep, exactly. And because the US, we don't have data privacy protection, we're way behind Europe that's at least established some guidelines legally for what is permitted and what's not. You can't lie and promote hate speech in Germany. It's still a crime there, right? But people who are trying to mind control are like, we need free speech, but then they'll sue you if they don't like what you're saying.
And that's exactly what you're saying. I mean, even you're seeing with the current administration, Trump's the first one screaming, ran on a what's it called, free speech platform.
Right.
Elon Musk is number one contributor. Free speech bought Twitter, and look what they do. Trump's going after, just recently, we had breaking news yesterday. Literally, Trump watched 60 Minutes, and then after watching, didn't like what he saw. Now he's suing and wants to shut down CBS. Literally shut down, close CBS. And because of that, he also wants to go over. So what I'm saying to you, and then you take Elon Musk. He buys Twitter because of free speech, clouding that he wants to give it free speech. And now if you take a look, X, what you call it, it's a right-wing mega chamber. Basically, there is no free speech. If you do free speech, you get blocked, you get your marks taken off, your space. I mean, it's not, you can see the difference if you're supporting Trump or you're against Trump. So again, the people, like you said, that run on those platforms are actually anti-free speech and not pro, because they're trying, it's like a dictatorship.
Right. So the key is information control, and what we say at Freedom of Mind is it's your mind and only you should control it. And in order to protect yourself, you need to understand how the mind works, how communication works, how mind control can be discerned, and you have to check your sources before you like anything or forward anything, etc. And honestly, spending less time on social media and more time in real life doing real actions against the cult of Trump. And if I may, Lev, just say I really want more folks who know the danger of Trump and Musk to be making more effort to message the people who are still in the cult of Trump, the people who are MAGA, not to attack them, not to call them names, but to ask questions in a respectful way that prod them to start thinking. And because I predict there will be tens of millions of people exiting the cult of Trump as they lose their jobs, as they lose their Medicaid and their Medicare and their Social Security and their farm subsidies, they're going to be very angry and upset. We want them to be messaging the GOP politicians in the Senate and the Congress. We want those people to be aligning to oppose the takeover that Trump is trying to do, the coup that's in progress right now. And the family of these tech giants, they probably have a voice that they could be talking to people too, and not just saying to Zuckerberg, great job, now you have a few more $1 billion. But what are people really thinking of what you're doing, the harm you're creating to generations of young people where they're anxious, they have eating disorders and gender dysphoria from being on your platform.
Yeah,
right?
no, absolutely, Steve. But it goes beyond that. I mean, it's not just about people. Trump has, being a dictator. There's also a fear that comes with it. So there's people, and even in cults, and you'll attest to it first, that there's not everybody in a cult wants to be in a cult. There are people that realize at some point they don't want to be in, but they don't know how to get out. For whatever reason, either they're not strong enough mentally, they might not have the financial, they might be scared because they're in fear, because different cults have a fear. So what I'm saying to you, this cult has grown to now where you have a major fear factor. If before you were scared to may get repercussion, maybe from the social media or from some crazy nut that could, stop you in the street now you have a legitimate scare of being harmed by your own government. Because if you take a look at even the breaking news today, that happened that Trump this weekend was told by the Supreme Court that he had to return a U.S. 9-0. 9-0. And what happened today? At the Oval, Trump refused to do it. So we're literally in a constitutional crisis. And it's like nobody's realizing it, but it gets even worse, Steve, because Trump was caught on a hot mic moment in the Oval at the time talking about how he wants to deport American citizens.
Yeah.
How he wants to now throw American citizens in U.S. jails, and talking about actual journalists, independent people that are, whistleblowers. I mean, last week he went after Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor. So people that spoke up against him that wrote a book. So, it's getting very scary, very difficult. Even people for myself, I tell you honestly, I mean, every day, you sit there and you think like, yes, you want to be strong and you want to come and talk truth to power and tell people to help them.
Right.
But, it's a scary time.
Yeah.
It's with everything that's going on.
Yeah. And just to remind people, Chris Krebs was Trump's appointment for voting integrity. And he's the one who said on the 2020, no, Biden won. And that's why he's wanting revenge on Chris Krebs. Look, we're going to do the best we can. Of course, we want to preserve our lives and our families' lives, and we need to keep messaging and be in active resistance. And we're going to take it one day at a time. And I don't know about you, but I pray to God for some relief, and because he's so inept. And there's so many conflicting fissures that are opening up in the cult of Trump between the Christian nationalists and the tech bros and the Putins and the China and the this and the that. So I'm in it, for as long as I am able to keep talking. That really, brainwashing exists. So it's not permanent, and one needs to resist against tyranny.
100%. I mean, Steve, what you do is incredible, because you're 100% right. Brainwashing does exist. It happens in front of our eyes every single day when Trump gets on TV. Because just think about it. Trump goes up there, manipulates the market, and you have his supporters that are going on TV and saying, hey, I lost millions of dollars today and I don't care. I'm for Donald Trump.
Right.
Just think about it. Like, that's some serious brainwashing. You know what I'm saying to you? Because nobody would be happy. Nobody normal or has the common sense is happy losing their 401ks or losing tens of millions just because Donald Trump can't figure out who he wants to tariff, when he wants to tariff, and how he wants to tariff him. And while he's playing his little games, people are losing their life savings that will never get recuperated. See, that's what people don't understand. See, the market might go up quickly, down quickly, but the people that really make money on that are insiders and people that are the regular person. The losses are real. The 401ks, the life savings. So yes.
Yeah, and the super billionaires can lose $100 billion, but if you got $400 billion, your life is not going to change.
What's $100 billion between a few?
Yeah, but for people who depend on Social Security to pay the rent and get food, they're going to be going to their children saying, "I don't have any money to eat," or "I can't pay the rent." So it's setting up the country to lose its role as the superpower in defense of democracy worldwide. And still, I believe that there are a lot of smart people, like your son is very inspiring. A lot of smart young people who are like, there's not an option to give up or to surrender to this evil that we're seeing perpetrated.
I agree with you. And, we just got the one thing we could keep doing is keep speaking up, speaking truth to power, keep trying to, like you said, give them a home where to come to, because people eventually are going to open up their eyes, understand. And it's, and that's what we do. And that's why, thanks to, you, Steve, for, being there and helping me through a lot of the times, understanding a lot of my own issues that I had getting out of the cult when I got. So, and now I could do the same thing. And I do that. And I try to help and explain to people the different material. And I speak to them. And another more thing, we talk about that all the time. It's not telling them. Sometimes the best thing is just ask the question. Let them give you the answer. Asking questions is better than, because when you're telling somebody, it's like, it's intimidating. It feels like you're ordering them. People take it. But ask the question. Yeah. Why would you be happy losing all this, your life security? Are you happy that you lost your 401k? Why?
And even another question that I like to pose is, think back to your first memory of Donald Trump. If somebody said to you then, in a few more years, you're going to lose all your 401k, right, and you're going to say, I don't care, what would you say to that? Would you ever get involved with Trump in the beginning? Because I find that reality test question of going back in time, if you knew then what you know now, would you have ever gotten involved?
You speak to people all the time on all of these social media. They're all, again, even though some mega are like, they're in between, arguing between each other and disagree. Listen, at the end of the day, yes, you'll have your super fanatics, you have your mega cultists, but at the end of the day, majority of the people right now are pissed off. Majority of people are seeing the craziness that's unfolding in front of their eyes, and they can't believe that they're in the United States of America.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that we should be doing more messaging on what it's like to live in an authoritarian country like Russia under Putin. Remind people of Navalny and his courage.
Yep, absolutely.
Remind people about China and their brainwashing programs and how they've been hacking our telecoms, and they want to have total surveillance on the world's population. And as far as we know, Musk has all of our data that he got access to, the government data, and Putin has it, Xi has it, who has it? And then again, the issue with the tech bros is they want to be bigger than countries. And did you happen to see Carol Cadwaller's TED Talk a few days ago?
No, Lev? I didn't catch it. No, I didn't
she
catch
was
it.
She is a Guardian journalist who broke the Cambridge Analytica hack of Facebook and got harassed horribly and had to go to court, etc. And she gave an amazing TED Talk. And she called it out. She said, we're experiencing a coup, and we should be using Signal, and we should be funding the Wayback Machine because they're trying to erase history and all the facts that we have on things. And calling us all to be aware that they're stealing our data, our IP. And it should be ours, not theirs. Right?
100%.
Right. So I'm going to circle back, if you don't mind, just because I want to make sure people know who you are, because I was following you every time you were on TV, etc. But just give a quick summary of how you got into the mess and how you got involved with the cult of Trump and what turned you to being a whistleblower, please.
Sure. I grew up, I was born in Odessa, Ukraine, which used to be the Soviet Union back in 1972. Mm-hmm. I immigrated to the United States in 1976 and lived here ever since as an American citizen. married. I've had 7 kids. Live with 3 that live with younger ones that live with me right now. Going back to 2015, when I was not a political guy, never was involved in politics. I grew up on the streets of Brooklyn. My father passed away when I was young at age 12, and I grew up around a lot of shady characters, a lot of criminal environment. Some of the same people Donald Trump associated himself with, but just on different levels. A lot of that. And that's why if you read the book, Shadow Diplomacy, you'll see how our lives intertwined over the years and then how we came back together in 2015. It was a dinner that we had. I helped co-sponsor a dinner for Donald Trump. It was at a time where he had that video that came out where he was talking about grabbing the female by her private parts. And
the Access Hollywood
the
thing.
Access Hollywood tape. And the ratings were down. Everybody was leaving him. And this billionaire in Florida decided to throw a fundraiser. And for me, I was involved in business. I didn't care about politics. I said, hey, if I could be in a room full of 20 billionaires to sell my real estate project, that's why I got there. When I came there, Donald Trump showed up. He was supposed to be there only for 20 minutes. But crazy thing happened at that dinner. I mean, he ended up staying for an hour and a half. At the dinner, we started talking, and me and him got into a deep conversation. He started looking. I'll never forget my interaction, or my point of, I think, where I got hooked into the cult was he looked out the window. And I was, first of all, I was taken by the power, obviously, by the aurora. I was sitting with probably one of the most powerful men in the world, and could be the next president. And here he is talking to me directly in front of all these people, looking outside into the ocean, saying, I don't have to be doing this. I don't have to be running for president. I could be golfing. I could be enjoying my life, but I'm doing it for you, for the people. And kind of that hit me, and I was like, you know what? I'm with you. You're not one of these politicians. You're a regular guy just like me, and that clicked in. And literally from that day on, for the next month until November 5th, when he won, and when he won, I was with him at that day. I was with him every day at his debate at Vegas against Hillary, at all his Trump rallies, and then at the Hilton when he won. And that was basically, I was part of the inner circle, and from there I only grew. And I could tell you, there's a lot to go over, which we can't fit into one podcast.
Yeah, but Rudy Giuliani played a big role
later on. Yeah, eventually later on, Rudy came into my life at the same time, separately from Trump, because Rudy was trying to find his way back into Trump world. And when the Mueller report started coming out, Rudy thought that's his way of coming back and be able to get Trump out of it, because he was willing to do certain things that nobody in Trump world was willing to do. And that's where our worlds collided. And at some point, the Ukraine-Biden corruption plot came together. And at December, I'll never forget, December 6, 2018, on that fateful night is when Donald Trump and the Oval sent me to Ukraine to dig up dirt on the Bidens. And that's when it started all. And my realization to get out of the cult came when I was sitting in a cell in Alexandria, Virginia, after probably a week already in, not in solitary confinement, after receiving different messages, like, a postcard slipped under my door from Rudy Giuliani telling me that Paul Manafort's lawyers are okay to me, get rid of the Paul Manafort lawyers and Trump's lawyers that he hired for me, to eventually starting to realize that I was being used as a pawn, to then, over time, after I already got out of my jail and was awaiting trial, spending a lot of time with my son, my wife, my family, and reflecting and understanding that, coming back to who I was, because I wasn't the person they always told me that you're not the person that we knew. Right. And slowly but surely, and then eventually making my decision that I'm going to come clean and tell the world everything I know. And that's when I did that Rachel Maddow interview, because at that time, nobody remembers, but Bill Barr was running the DOJ and the Southern District. Nobody wanted to listen to me. Nobody wanted to hear the truth until I risked my life, risked everything, and went under indictment, looking at 20 years to life. I went on Rachel Maddow, did the interview, and that's what broke it. And after that, I testify. I've given over 300 pieces of articles of evidence against Trump in the first impeachment. I testified in Congress in Joe Biden's impeachment that they tried to impeach him, saving him, telling the truth. And
If my recollection is you recorded a lot of the things, so you were giving firsthand evidence, not just your word, but you had the documentation.
Yeah, they try to make me crazy. I mean, my word, nobody would believe me. The things that I saw or heard, I was fortunate that, because I never thought I was doing anything wrong. I thought when I was in the cult, I thought I'm saving America against the deep state. I'm going to get a medal of freedom. This is the greatest thing, and all of this happening. So I documented everything because it was history. And that ended up saving my life because they assumed that because of some crooked nature that we would erase everything and there would be so this way when I get arrested and I'd say, hey, I knew Donald Trump. He said, I don't know who the guy is. And
he said that. I remember him denying knowing.
Exactly. And now fast forward and 5 years later.
And they're showing him the pictures with him smiling with his arm around you. And, right?
But that was the whole game plan, because if I didn't have the evidence, I would never be able to prove it, because you're dealing with the most... Who am I, a kid from Brooklyn, on the streets of Brooklyn, being at the White House, being sent to do all of this shadow diplomacy? So... that did save my life, and today I'm using all of that evidence to this day to fight, speak truth to power, and that's why I want to really, not because Substack is a great community for those of you that could afford it. It's there's ways of you to be able to support, but for others it's free also. You could subscribe for free.
Yeah, I'm on Substack too.
Exactly, you're on Substack, Steve, and I welcome every you to come. You can find me at Lev Parnas, Lev Remembers. I really
plug your son too.
Oh, Aaron! I mean, I think Aaron doesn't need any plug. He can plug all of us. Aaron.
No, not everybody is on as much as I am.
You guys definitely need to take a look. Aaron Parnas, my pride and joy. He's my oldest son, and he was a lawyer, but now he's become a social media sensation. He's found an incredible way of bringing the news to be able, first of all, not like the media tries to hide it or spin it. He brings it flat. The truth, but he found in a way that he could do it under a minute, where you don't have to spend 30, 40 minutes waiting to break it out. He breaks it down to you, gives it to you in a clip, and you feel that you're informed. And he really, I'll tell you, I forgot the last time I seen him. I can't even get a phone call. He's so busy because there's so much breaking news under the Trump administration. It's literally, I feel bad because, I don't know when he gets a chance to sleep nowadays, because, me trying to help out and do some of this stuff, I don't even know when it's
he's going to need to take on a partner so he can sleep, so he doesn't burn out, because you can't do it 24/7.
Yeah.
I mean, when in the Moonies, I did 18 to 21 hours a day, but I became a zombie because I was so sleep deprived in the cult.
I can imagine.
But I just want to comment. I saw a short clip of a Trump devotee, and the guy was being said, so if Trump shot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, that wouldn't cause you to have any doubts? And he'd say, no, I think it would be fine if he killed someone. And they were like goofing on the guy. And I'm watching this going, I would have said the same thing as a Moonie. Yeah. If they said if Moon shot somebody on Fifth Avenue, wouldn't that cause you to doubt? I'd be no, because he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Nobody knows more than the Messiah. Come on.
Well, that's what he says. Remember, he's the only one that could fix anything.
Yeah.
If you think about anything, but he has to break it first, pretend that he's fixing it, and then blame somebody else when he can't get it done. It's the same old routine with Donald Trump.
And he distracts. And he's also, I really believe he's learned hypnotic techniques on people. I think that night you got converted, you were not in a critically analytic frame of mind. He got inside your head and tweak.
You know what does that? Power, greed. We all have it inside of us, and when we're not in our own state of mind, and then that's how you get caught up in a cult. Because if you're in a good state of mind, you have a healthy family relationship, and somebody meets you on the street and says, I'm going to offer you this and that, you'd say, go screw yourself. But when you're looking for something else because it's something bad at home, or you're messed up in the head, and all of a sudden you find that somebody that tells you those words of whatever it is to get you there, you're like, oh, you know what, that sounds, let me go. And that's a big part of where you are in your state of mind. So we ourselves also have to be, because I understand at that point in my life, I wasn't the same person I am today. Right. I didn't look at things. At that point, I looked at money and power as a source. So it was easy for Trump to pride into that part of my life, and that's why.
Yeah, and I'll just say you're a Brooklyn boy. I'm a Queens boy. I actually grew up 1.3 miles from Donald Trump's childhood home. And my vulnerability was my girlfriend dumped me, and three moony women met me at Queens College and flirted with me and lied their faces off. So that was my vulnerability. I wasn't looking to join anything. I just wanted a girlfriend.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. You wanted a girlfriend. I wanted money and power.
I was 19. What are you going to want when you're 19?
I mean, just think about back in the day during that whole hippie revolution, 70s. I mean, free love. I mean, most of those people, all they cared about was just smoking, getting high, and just being free. And none of them work. I mean, it was just a different. I'm saying to you, but that's also
I wasn't smoking at that point, but I definitely was worried about. I was very worried about corruption and pollution back in the 70s. I was worried about global climate crisis, and then I find out that the Moonies, my former cult, have been the Center for Climate Science Denial through the Washington Times for 50 frickin' years.
Wow.
And I'm watching what's happening today, and I was in the room with some young moon as he was talking about infiltrating the government, taking it over, how democracy is evil, and we have to create a theocracy, and changing the Constitution to make it a capital offense when people broke our rules. He literally said that to me and a group of leaders in 1974.
Crazy.
So it's, and that's why people say, how could you keep doing this for 49 years? I'm like, I felt like I was meant to do this. Like I was in the room and I got out. I got liberated with my family's help to deprogram me. And I've just felt a calling that this is too important to not tell people about. And it's only gotten worse. So my biggest frustration is I haven't gotten a bigger audience for people to take me seriously.
You got to keep doing what you're doing. And, unfortunately, a lot of people do not want to admit, and it's, that they were brainwashed. They don't want to admit they were in a cult. People don't want, because it's, I remember even myself looking at cult movies and stuff, and I wouldn't say to myself, how do these people, I would never say never, because you gotta understand, different cults, different things. There are religious cults, there are money cults, there are racial cults. There's different ways of getting to a person, and that's why I say to people, there's no shame in it. Definitely talk about it. Don't worry about it, and there's other people that could understand, and that's why. I think you're right. Eventually, because of we're looking right now in front of our lives, one of the biggest cults in the history of the world. And it's called a mega cult. And I think that you're eventually, a year from now, 4 years from now, 2 years from now, there's going to be a mass flood of people getting out. And
I think it's going to be sooner. I think it's going to be this year. A large number are going to be like.
We'll pray for that to happen. But that's when I think people like you, yourself, myself, and others will really then need to be able to help out and help with the deprogramization.
Right. But I just want to compliment you again. You didn't just leave, but you did the right thing. And you spoke out, despite the fear, despite the threats, all of that. And, when you met with Hunter Biden and apologized and gave him a copy of your book and signed it to him, I was like crying, because you did the right thing. You apologized, because he really was harmed, and his father was harmed by this pernicious lie that the Trump was trying to do against his political opponents, right?
100%.
So, and I've done the same thing. I've said to people, please, I did bad things in the Moonies. I turned my back on my people, my country, my religion, and I'm trying to be as honest and direct and as respectful as possible to say, hello, we have a life, and we should know that it's precious. and we should look out for one another. And I'm a big love guy, as opposed to fear and terror. It's like love is stronger. You love your kids, you're gonna do the right thing.
Absolutely.
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 And then I just want to quote. We're going to wrap up soon because I know you're extremely busy. But Viktor Frankl survived 4 concentration camps, and he was starved, he was beaten, he was tortured, but he said, no, they can't control my mind, and they can't make me lose my self-respect. They can do everything to my body. They can do all of these horrible things, but he kept this hope alive that he was going to get out. He was going to write the books he wanted to write. He was going to see his wife again. Unfortunately, she died in a concentration camp. He didn't know that at the time, but he survived. And many younger, more fit people didn't, because they gave up hope. So what I want to emphasize is we need to keep hope alive.
Hope is number one. I agree with you. Hope is.
We need to keep that positive vision and just say we're going to take it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and we're going to go to sleep at night knowing we did a little more to contribute to make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
So let's plug your Substack. What else? Tell us any other thing that you want to share with my audience.
I think the most important thing is, I think for the audience is definitely, if you haven't got the book, go to Amazon.com, Shadow Diplomacy. The book is definitely, it will take you inside of not only Trump world, but also of the Ukrainian side, Russian oligarch, Ukrainian, other American people that are now running our country that are in Trump's administration. It's I promise you, once you pick it up, you won't put it down.
Mm-hmm.
And
you have it on audio too, right?
Actually, what I'm doing is for my Substack audience, I'm going to be doing it's called Storytime with Lev, and that's why we're going to be going live reading, where I read the book out live, and then we're going to do Q&A afterwards for subscribers. So that's why I really
nice.
That's my home Substack, where I recommend everybody go to get the inside scoop and get all the juicy stuff.
Great. And please watch the documentary too, because I think it was really, really well done.
Yeah, Rachel Rachel Maddow did an incredible job with Billy Corbin and Alfred Spellman. You should watch the documentary. They were able to in a 2-hour period put in together some very pertinent information to show you. In Trump's, you'll hear his own words. You'll see his own Trump himself ordered to get rid of the U.S. ambassador when me and him were having dinner and other things. So definitely, between reading the book and watching the documentary, you're definitely going to want to come on my Substack. You'll have lots of questions, because you won't believe that he's still back in office after everything that you see transpired over the years.
Yep, and I want to just put in a plug for Zelensky and the brave people of Ukraine, and I want to tell people, the Russian people don't like Putin, but he's terrorized them. He's killed so many people in this quest for colonialism over Ukraine. He's an evil dude, and any American that you're hearing say positive things about Putin, like Trump is repeating Putin propaganda points, you need to be like, wait a minute. This
Absolutely.
is not our values.
That's right. Steve, thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
You're a mensch, if I can use a little Yiddish.
Absolutely. Thank you.
As one Queens boy to a Brooklyn boy.
Thank you, my brother, as I could say. And for all of the Ukrainian there, Slava Ukraini. And hope, God bless America and God bless all of you. And hopefully we get through this crazy period, dark age at time, and come out the other side, remembering that there is hope. And the key, I think, from this whole thing that I think, Steve, you said that we should all take away is hope keeps us alive. Hope keeps us giving us, the bright light to look at the end of the tunnel. So let's look at hope and take that out of this message.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thanks so much. We'll be in
Thank you,
touch
Steve.
soon. Thanks
Take
so
care.
much.
Bye-bye.
Steve Hassan here. You know, it's been decades since my family rescued me from the Moonies. I've been at this for over 47 years. The need has never been greater. If you're able, please consider hitting the super thanks button below, and it'll help us to do better. Every penny will help us toward our goal of educating the planet about undue influence. Remember, it's your mind, only you should control it.